Panel. Charles Lane, opinion writer for The Washington Post, Fox News media analyst and host of Fox's Media Buzz, Howard Kurtz, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. I think we can control the audio here, so let's start with the panel. Chuck, you listened to Brian Fallon. You've read this report. What do you think?
Look, Brian Fallon is very good at what he does, but there's no getting around the fact this is a bad headline today for Hillary and for her campaign heading into California. And to me, what stood out was the not that implicit, pretty direct refutation of something she's been saying all along, which is kind of, it doesn't matter because my records were preserved in the sort of other emails that other people were sending around, right? They were kind of included therein. And the IG directly refutes that and says, no, that's not good enough under the federal record-keeping rules. And, you know, that has been a mainstay of her story all along, and it's just not holding up here.
I just don't know, Howie, how throwing shade at the IG appointed by President Obama is a positive retort for them, the Inspector General.
I think that's a losing argument, and in fact, not only did I not see any bias in this report, it's written deliberately in very bland and bureaucratic language, but precisely because of that, and because it's an independent watchdog confirming that Hillary Clinton flouted the rules, I think that's where its power comes from. And for the IG to say that she should have surrendered all the emails on her private server upon resignation kind of fuels the impression, which Hillary Clinton's critics have been saying for some time, that she was acting like she had something to hide. And finally, now that we know that there was a specific request for her to use government email back in 2010, like everyone else at the State Department, that response that you read to Brian Fallon, where she says, don't want any risk of the personal becoming accessible, really kind of knocks down the I did it for my convenience argument and suggests that what she was actually trying to do was to shield from the public and the press things that she defined as personal.
Yeah, a FOIA to those emails. When you look at the polls, in the latest Fox News poll, the honest and trustworthy number, she is at an all-time low. And we have seen, Charles, this evolution of the explanations about the email. And now we see the different statements compared to what the IG says about those same very statements. And listening to Brian explain each one, you know, they have an answer. But what do you make of all of it?
Well, their grand strategy is to complicate everything to the point where you can't really follow, or at least the electorate can't follow. People have the general impression that he was not telling the truth, particularly about why. I didn't want to carry two cell phones is absurd. She obviously was trying to hide from inquiries that would come from the Congress or from the Freedom of Information Act. Now, to me, an example of how all this gets obfuscated is this line from the report. She did not comply with the department's policies that were implemented in accordance with the Federal Records Act. All the headlines I've seen today is Clinton did not obey State Department policies, which makes it sound like a bureaucratic rule breaking. But the fact is that these policies are promulgated, they are instituted as a way to carry out the law. So you violate the policies, you actually have violated the law. That's the headline you'd expect to see. That's not the headline she is getting. Of course, it adds to the weight of her being shifty, unreliable, and untrustworthy. But it doesn't hit it on the head, which is what the IG is saying. This is law breaking.